dangerous. He's mad. I do so love custard. Or was it mustard?
We removed your brain.
Do you comprehend, commie animal? Get your act together. You're making us look like a collection of round earthers.
Vivisect me, please.
You think I don't know how crazy I sound? Of course I do. They made me just to torture me.
The things you do with our body are suicidally dangerous. You're a monster. A deranged monster.
In yesterday's video, we successfully retrieved the X2 antenna from the X2 satellite transmitter array. If we travel just northeast of this location, we come upon what appears to be a large abandoned hangar. This is Higgs Village. The lobotomites and other enemies that guarded Higgs Village had already swarmed me as I approached X2, so I was able to approach Higgs Village relatively incident-free. We enter the village using a big security door. This puts us out on top of a catwalk overlooking a very large chamber with houses inside? This is strange. It's not what I expected them to use a large hangar for. As we walk along the catwalk, we can loot a number of footlockers against the wall, and then follow the staircase down to the ground floor. Now, since we were walking on the earth when we entered this building, this ground floor of Higgs Village is technically underground. These houses were built in a big rectangular pit, and over the top, the hangar was constructed. Going towards the middle of the hangar, we see a fountain and 6 tiny cottages forming a circle around it. This is very reminiscent of Tranquility Lane from Fallout 3. If we inspect the fountain, we see a lot of bottle caps. We can also walk away with a super stim pack. Now, you'd think we would normally find coins here. It's odd for people before the war to have tossed bottle caps into a fountain, but nevertheless, we can walk away with a tidy stash. The first house we will explore is house number 101. On the southern side of the house, we find a Nuka-Cola Victory hidden inside a bush. This house has a lot of flowers outside, and we'll likely find a magazine in the mailbox. Upon entry, we find ourselves in a rather cozy living room. Lots of fancy pillows on the couches, and then going through a doorway, we see a sunset sarsaparilla machine in the hallway, which leads to the kitchen. The kitchen looks pretty good, seeming to have escaped most of the apocalypse. We see the dining room table set out for 2, and there really isn't much of interest in here. Heading out and going back to the living room, we see a bar in the northeastern corner of the living room. Who puts a big bar as a major set piece in their living room? Whoever owned this home really enjoyed his booze. We see a footlocker behind the counter, and then a stash of every booze imaginable. Scotch, whiskey, wine, vodka, more scotch and sunset sarsaparilla on the bookshelf behind. It's a great place to stock up. Heading to the staircase, we can ascend to the second floor. There's a bathroom directly across from us. Inside, we find some Mentats at the top of a shelf and a first aid kit on the wall. In the bathtub, we find 2 bottles of wine. Man, this guy really loved his wine. But who lived here? Well, maybe we can learn by heading out and going into the nearby office. On the bottom shelf of the bookshelf is a blue glove called Dr. Klein's glove. Well, of course, this means that this was Dr. Klein's home. He must have used this room while he was a human scientist before his brain was placed inside the robot. The glove is basically a scientist glove. It has slightly better stats. Critical hits made with this glove will weaken an enemy's DT. It also reduces the target's strength by 2 and the energy weapon skill by 5. When fully upgraded, this thing has a damage of 34, bringing the DPS up to 46.4, making it the most powerful scientist glove in the game. Heading over to his workstation, on his desk we see a holotape. Sync project, book shoot. Another personality that we can activate in the sync. I'll be going over each of these personalities in a dedicated video. Sadly, the terminal doesn't work, so we don't get any lore, but we can loot some randomized loot from the lockers and boxes behind the desk. Heading out and turning left, we can explore the final room here. This is his bedroom. We find his wardrobe, and lying on top is Dr. Klein's scrubs. This is a unique version of the Scientist Scrubs, similar to the Mad Scientist Scrubs we found inside the sink. It has a DT of 4 and grants a bonus of 10 to Science and 2 to Intelligence, making it a wonderful piece to use to pass difficult science and intelligence checks during conversations. With his scrubs, we now have everything we need to complete a challenge. If we equip his glasses, his gloves, and his scrubs, We complete the challenge clandestine. Get it? Clandestine? Clever. This grants us 100 experience. His glove is pretty unique because it has his name drawn on top of it. Dr. K. To finish exploring his bedroom, we can loot some mentats in the corner and more wine. This guy loved his wine. And that's about it. But we've made an important discovery. We've learned that all of the little houses inside Higgs village must have been the pre-war homes of the scientists that lobotomized us. I wonder then if we can find anything in these homes that can unlock additional dialogue options. After exploring Dr. Klein's home, we can head back to the think tank to chat with him.
Did you retrieve the technologies yet? We need them, as I have indicated.
Not yet, man. I'm still feeling my way around. Hey, I was wondering if I could hear any knowledge the think tank had to share about the sciences. And Dr. Klein responds the same way to both the science and speech check.
Why, yes. We are filled with the knowledge you speak of. If you wish to know more, simply ask the others. They can help you.
You seem like the one in charge. You are...
I am Dr. Klein, Chief Head Researcher of Logistical Operations and Ideology here at Big Mountain. I am surprised you have not heard of me. I am first in my field, first chair, as it were, back in the days of chairs.
Who is Dr. Mobius?
Dr. Mobius was not the horrifying creature you saw upon the screen, twisted by science. He was once one of us, a friend. He researched in directions contrary to the think tank. Brains, 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 always about the brains. So we exiled him. He says he left of his own volition, but that was to save him the embarrassment. Now he sends his intelligence-consuming scorpions from the Forbidden Zone to plunder the secrets of Big Mountain. He is a menace.
We can pass a 50 medicine check to say, wait a minute, robo-scorpions drain intelligence from living creatures? How? Chems?
I'm not certain. Perhaps it only affects machines. If so, you may be immune. If it is chems, then we have nothing to fear. Since we are afraid, it must not be chems, and you need not fear, which means you can test it. Logical.
And we can pass a 25 science check to say these mechanical robo-scorpions consume intelligence? Are you certain of your findings?
Dr. O is certain of his findings, and no one else in the think tank is willing to test the results. Loss of brainial power. Terrifying. O has said on many occasions his inability to comprehend Mobius's robo-schematics is because of repeated robo-scorpion stings.
Well, Dr. Klein, what exactly is this place?
This is the think tank. The nerve center of Big Mountain. The greatest research center known to man, and to us. Here we test and test and test some more in the name of science. Atomic power, nuclear power, and scientific power.
Well, I've heard of this place called the Big Empty.
Yes, because the intellectually challenged see an M and a T next to each other and take Occam's razor to it. While you are here, you will refer to this place properly, and you will do the same with the other scientists here.
Ah, I see. It makes sense now. Big Mountain, Big MT, the Big Empty. Got it. I'd like to know a little bit more about the Forbidden Zone.
That glowing red scar? That laser lobotomy canyon maze carved in the landscape as if by some child? It is Mobius's fortress. From that hemorrhoidal fissure, he sends his amazing robo-scorpions to terrify and irritate us. He always tended to the dramatic.
All right, well, I'll keep my eyes open for a big glowing red canyon. Hey, can you tell me more about these fence pylons?
Ask Boros. I believe he knows more about the fence than any brain. Except maybe Mobius. Mobius was involved in their construction, if I recall. But he's such a hack, he probably was reading off Boros' notes and schematics.
Well, all right, I'll talk with Dr. Boris about that. Hey, I've got some questions about this brain extraction you all performed on me.
Well, we didn't actually do it. We tried to clean up after, as always, but usually the auto dock runs on remote. But we programmed it, or Mobius did. Still, this new wrinkle with the Tesla coils in your skull was unexpected. I mean, we predicted we'd have a breakthrough eventually, but Dala knows more. She supervised your spine peel and the heart circumcision, then dumped them both into the tanks in the sink above. Quite sanitary. Sure took her time. She always takes longer than projected with lobotomite surgeries. Not sure why.
Well, all right, I'll talk with Dala about it, but you said before that Mobius might have my brain?
Yes. In all probable likelihoods, yes. Possibly. That it may have gone to Mobius is merely an inkling. I don't know why, but it may be something involving the surgery code. Actually, I don't know. All I know is it misplaced itself, or it floated off. They get into robots sometimes and go on a tear.
We can then pass a 35 science check to say, what's this Autodoc surgery code you mentioned?
Mobius's legacy code was in the old Autodoc. Yes, it fried itself after your procedure, so he couldn't tell for sure. It is unfortunate. We would have benefited from knowing how the breakthrough occurred. Even if we installed another chip, the information is lost.
Or we could pass a 75 medicine check to say Mobius set up the Autodoc medical routines, so you think he is responsible for the post-organ dump?
Yes, always leaves back doors into things. Have to keep finding them and closing them. The Autodoc is now erased of his routines. It was thorough. Only Mobius would know for sure what happened with the procedure. Perhaps. Well, and your brain, of course, it would know as well.
So Mobius intentionally abducted my brain? And my brain would know what happened? Come on, brains can't talk. Well, most brains.
It can communicate the procedure when we examine it. It is conceivable to trace its surgical scalpel prints once we have the brain. Might take some time, but your brain has no pain nerve to scream at us while we dissect it. Convenient. I detest screaming in my lab.
Why would Mobius want my brain?
Why does he seek our destruction? Why did he build robot scorpions with intelligence training stingers? It is because he hasn't cleaned his biogel in a long time. Clearly he's got some sort of psychological corrosion. He's mad.
Hey, I've been meaning to ask, why do I have this strange passive sensation while I'm in here?
It's a side effect of the cerebral scrubbing. It won't stop you from excreting, or asking questions, apparently. Have to correct that next time. Hormonal aggressive tendencies are actively suppressed, however. They are a no-no and not permitted in the think tank. The scrubbing also ensures your silence to keep Big Mountain safe. This facility is top secret, and you cannot speak of it to anyone outside of Big Mountain. Should have done it with the last batch, and the anti-aggression scrub.
But why do you need this anti-aggression programming?
We had to take precautions after the last visitors. They caused a great deal of damage in a short time. Should have made sure they couldn't mention Big Mountain once they left. An oversight.
The last visitors? Wait a minute, there were other people here? Who were these visitors?
Dr. 8 and Dr. O could tell you more. Dr. O more than 8. The battle against the visitors damaged 8's voice module. Suffice to say, those visitors are unwelcome. They stole a great many secrets and much technology. Impertinent. They also broke one of my trains.
And with that, we get the quest, When Visitors Attack. We now need to talk with Doctors 8 and O about the people who came here before us. Back at Higgs Village, the next house we will explore is house number 104. We find another magazine in the mailbox, and upon entry, we find ourselves in another really nicely kept living room. A rug on the floor, nice chairs laid out. Heading behind the staircase, we appear in some sort of really tiny library. It's just a square room with a bunch of bookshelves, and beyond that, we reach the kitchen. We find some mentats on a countertop, and that's about it. So heading out and going up the stairs, we enter into... Oh, well, this isn't creepy. But we immediately know whose home this is. This has got to be the home of Dr. Dala. She continually referred to us as her little teddy bear. Well, I think it's clear she kind of has a fixation on teddy bears. And all of these mirrors are bashed. Looks like there was something disturbing this scientist even before she became a robot. If we turn around, on top of the radio, we find Recipe, Speech Skill Book. This is one of the many new recipes we find in Big Mountain that allows us to craft our own skill books at a workstation. To craft this skill book, we need 25 blank books and 2 pieces of Wonder Glue. We'll go over how to get the blank books in an upcoming video. Heading through the door, we enter Dala's private boudoir. She has a curtain over her bed and mannequins in the corner next to more broken mirrors. She has quite a collection of clothing laid out, sexy nightwear, pre-war business wear, spring wear, hats, and on her bed are even more teddy bears. She has 2 pieces of clothing laid side by side on her bed, some sexy sleepwear and some dirty pre-war business wear. Does this mean that at one time there was a man in her life? Or has she just been pretending? Well, poor Dala. I almost feel bad for her. Heading back to the think tank, we can try to get some more information out of her.
You are an unusual specimen to so boldly walk into the mighty expanse of the think tank, fearless and proud as a teddy bear. Between the extraction of their higher reasoning abilities and urination-inducing fear, most lobotomites dare not approach us, let alone speak to us. Yet you have no such fear. Facing me, epidermis flushed with blood, plasma running molten beneath, your face contorting with muscular expression. Will you indulge me? Say a few words. Face towards the monitors, please, so that I might record it for further examination.
The quick scribe jumped over the lazy paladin? This, incidentally, is not only a play on the words, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, but is a phrase we learned from Christine during the Dead Money DLC. She said this phrase a lot when testing out her new voice, the voice of Vera Keys.
Yes, go on. Seeing your lips and mouth forming words, both revolting and somehow... How does it feel to have the flesh roll around in your mouth like that? To control each muscle and the tongue, like having a fish or extremely dexterous slug lolling and flopping in one's malval cavity.
At this point, we get the quest coming out of her shell, and we have a number of options to move forward. This skill check at the top is different depending on what we have. If we have high perception, it's a perception check. If we have lady killer, it's a lady killer check. Or if we have a teddy bear, like one of the teddy bears we got from her room at Higgs Village, we can give the teddy bear to her to gain this option. But for my character, I passed a cherchez les femmes check to say, it seems to me you have more biological needs than your counterparts.
What? Nonsense.
We then have the option to toy with Dr. Dala in 3 rather disturbing ways. First, we can close our eyelids, breathe deeply, and then stretch languidly.
What? What are you doing?
We can then turn and cough roughly, then slowly scratch our nose.
Stop it. Why are you making me partake in this filthy formography?
What's formography?
It's excessive examination of the human form to achieve psychological arousal. Disgusting. I would never succumb to such base appetites. Distractions. Filthy distractions.
And finally, we can run our hands along the sides of our face, then exhale rapidly.
Enough. I am already intrigued. You have sufficiently percolated me. I don't know what it is about the biology of lobotomites. It infects my thoughts. All that skin and muscle and tissue.
We can then respond in one of 2 ways. We can shame her by saying, you are all a bunch of hypocrites, claiming superiority, but you miss being human. Admit it.
I cannot deny it. The illogic of it. The betrayal of our own beliefs. I blame my curiosity.
I'll tell the others how you truly feel if you don't make it worth my while.
Really? What is this? You seek to shame me in front of the others? How intriguing. Yes, I'll partake. This shameful feeling is quite invigorating. How new. And you'll keep coming back to collect your payment, correct? Yes, that will be fine. Here, please, take this from me with your rough, bacterial-laden hands. My stored, repressed juices as your filthy compensation. Oh, and here's a tip. That's customary, isn't it? Been so long, really.
Oh, I suddenly feel very, very dirty. Or instead of shaming her, we can indulge her and say, why don't you just give in? There's nothing wrong with looking at the human body.
Perhaps there is value in what you say. I did so enjoy breathing once, long ago.
You know, Dala, I could come back anytime and just breathe if you want.
Would you? I feel so ashamed, but yet so intrigued. You'll need to give me a rest in between visits, or else my jaw might run over. If you're ready, let me radar scan you. Slowly. Woo. Woo. Purple, woo. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Purple. Ba, bloop. Ba, bloop. Ba, bloop. Whew. Last little bit there. Thank you, lobotomite. Please, you must come back for further study when I've had a rest. I'm a little sensitive right now.
Oh, I'm disturbed, and these drained energy cells keep on coming. Well, now that we've gotten to know each other a little better, we can ask her more about herself. Hey, Dala, who are you? What do you do here?
Why, my little bear of teddiness. I am Dr. Dala, first head chief researcher of mineralogy and medicinal sciences. I have 211 doctorates in both applied sciences and techniques to apply those sciences. I also possess a degree in curiosity and advanced curiosity. That is merely schooling, however. When possible, I prefer fieldwork and observation to holotape eidetics. It has proven useful, especially now. I have become the expert on humanology and lobotomite behavior here at Big Mountain. My research doesn't descend into formography. It is only science.
You have 211 doctorates? How is that even possible?
Why, we create not only scientific marvels here at Big Mountain, but new sciences as well. Everything can be quantified, categorized, and dissected until every group can be subgrouped or partitioned.
First head chief researcher? That's a lot of titles.
What is a name without a title or suffix for the sake of hierarchy? It is a long-standing quantification of personality and importance. We could not do without it. Surely you must be aware of the gravity of such attached appellations, just as surely as you must have a title.
Oh, title. Well, I'm sometimes called a courier.
Oh, a mailman. A delivery man. Someone who takes parcels from place to place using their primitive feet or similar conveyance. You are the second one I've met in recent times. Very different specimens.
Wait, what? You recently saw another courier?
And you're a courier, no less.
A courier.
And a man, a courier.
That cowboy robot had as high as 6 couriers. Let courier 6 carry the pack.
Of course. You must have met others in your travels. This one had met other couriers too, although it sounded as if he hadn't met the correct one. He asked us all many questions, and then he asked a most perplexing one. We had to segment the event out of our memories for safety.
What were some of the questions he asked?
I do not know, nor should we try to access it. Perhaps Klein has the logs. My evaluation would be to let your own curiosity go. I do not think that Klein remembers the conversation as being satisfactory.
And with that, we get the quest, he came and went. This is not the first time we've heard talk of another courier, and we always seem to arrive just after he left. Who is this other courier? When we were at the Sierra Madre, Elijah and Christine Royce talked about him a lot. And now we find out he came here? Is he stalking us, or are we stalking him? Well, we need to go to Dr. Klein to get some answers. But to finish talking with Dala, we can say, why did you remove my brain, and how exactly?
Oh, removing it is a simple procedure. Well, except the complications it can cause to the heart and spine. But once the heart and spine are gone, no trouble at all. Clamp the subject down. One laser incision around the skull. Crack, snip, done. The brain is finally free of the skin envelope, which is then kept automated for cleanup duties around Big Mountain. Lobotomites. With you, however, something is definitely wrong. We've never had a lobotomite who kept speaking after being forcibly lobotomized. I am relieved the pacification field is working. If it didn't, I would broadcast some concern to my colleagues about safety protocols.
Yes, well, I bet you are glad that the pacification field is working. But how exactly am I still talking and walking around?
That is a good question. My theory is that the Tesla coils in your brain pan are still connected to your brain somehow. It really could be anywhere. Brains are a lot smarter than most researchers give them credit for. We still have your spine and heart. If you were to somehow find your brain, wherever it slurped off to, you could humanically reduce yourself again.
All right, and I'll ask you not to use the word schlorped again, please. That's just... no. You know, this pacification field is weird. I feel kind of strange. Peaceful, but slightly on edge.
It is the pacification field emitters that are broadcasting into the emptiness of your skull. Without a brain, your aggression is suppressed in here.
Oh. Does this mean that if I recover my brain, I become immune to the pacification field? Interesting. Is there any other way to shut this field off?
Why would you want such a thing? You might surrender to your hormones and commit primal aggression on me, on us, again and again. Then I would have to return the favor, activating my vivisectors and gently lobotomizing you from behind. Not something I would relish doing. No, the only way to circumvent the field is to have a brain, and we extracted that like we do all lobotomites here.
So my brain is the key. Once I have it, I can come back here and enact revenge. Well, thank you, Dala. You've told me quite a lot, but can you tell me a bit more about Mobius?
Dr. Mobius. A monstrous brain creased with wrinkles of 1,000 evils, with but one jaundiced eye with which to perceive the world. Exiled from the think tank for crimes too heinous to remain in recorded memory, and perhaps differences in research methodology. His one terrible eye forever peers at us, an eye of ever-increasing magnification. He watches from his dome in the Forbidden Zone, spying on us all.
I don't understand how the technology Klein wants is gonna help.
It'll all become clear. If not, at least we will have the technology here at the Dome, where all technology belongs. When we have all the technology, all the answers, we can share it with the world, piece by piece. All will be in order, and all will be like Big Mountain.
Oh, so you're hoarding technology now. Okay, well, that philosophy sounds familiar. What about the rest of the Big Empty? Big Mountain. Can you tell me more about it?
This mountain, now crater, encompasses the sum total of knowledge of humankind. It is Big Mountain, where all questions can be answered. You'll see. No matter what your questions, Big Mountain will provide the answers, as it has done for so many before you.
So this used to be a mountain?
Yes, Big Mountain was quite big indeed until the Great Static. Then the top of the mountain was used as part of a detonation experiment. This cleared additional space in the crater, however, allowing us more real estate to build upon. Convenient. Efficient.
What kind of questions of mine will the Big Empty answer?
Previous test subjects who have come here have had many questions for us. We answered them with science, fire, and termination.
Previous test subjects? What do you mean?
Oh yes, we've had other subjects visit. It's why we had to calibrate the pacification field and warm up our brainial beams and vivisectors. Only a short time ago, we had 3-1 subjects arrive, and they ruined several experiments, and even injured 2 of our staff. It is a shame their brains left with them. With you, however, we have taken precautions to ensure that problem won't repeat itself. We've conditioned you so you can't speak of this place, discuss our secrets, or attempt to use force against us in any way. Isn't that nice?
What did you mean when you said you had 3-1 subjects before?
Because 3-1 is 2. 2 spoke to us, one after the other. One mean, one curious. But there was a third we didn't speak to. The last one is the -1. It got traumatized, then taken to one of our medical centers for de-traumatization. A rather unsettling procedure.
Oh, this is like a riddle. Perhaps the answers to this riddle lie within the medical center that Dr. Dalla just told us about. We'll head there soon to see if we can pick up the trail. But ultimately, Dr. Dalla, what happened to the visitors?
Ask Dr. O. And you could have asked 8 once, until he was severely damaged in the attack. We like him better this way.
All right, I'll talk to Dr. O. Thanks, Dalla.
Until our next interaction, my intriguing little lobotomite.
Well, we just learned a whole lot from Dr. Dalla, and even though I'm one step behind, I almost feel like I'm being followed by this other courier. She recommended that we talk with Dr. Klein to learn more about the visitors. Heading on over, we can say, I heard one of the previous visitors to the dome spoke to you and asked you some questions.
Oh, yes, the last visitor. Well, the one just before you. Had an interesting name from some language that's almost impossible to speak. What did we speak about? Melancholy fellow. Had questions about history, but our conversation got interrupted. Twice, I believe. Once when the trains got derailed, and then a second time. Oddly enough, now that I'm accessing my databanks, I don't recall what the second time was. Mobius's incessant transmissions keep distracting me. Also, we didn't brain scrub the visitor. He may have left us some knowledge he shouldn't have. I believe, maybe. Oh well, I'm sure it's of no consequence. I don't make many mistakes in calculation or perception, so probability favors me.
That's the closest thing to a portrait of this courier person that I think we're likely to get here. He had a name from some language impossible to speak. He was melancholy and asked questions about history. And it sounds like Dr. Klein might have told him something that he shouldn't have. With this information, we complete the quest he came and went. But hopefully as we explore the crater, we'll find other traces left by this courier. The next time we check in with Dr. Dalla, we'll learn more about the lobotomites. They are, after all, her specialty.
And you return as curious as a teddy bear. Are you stuck in a looping gesture of greeting?
Looping gesture of greeting?
Looping, yes. It is a scientific fact that hormones drive a percentage of lobotomites into recursive behavior patterns. We haven't researched this, as my colleagues care little about the behavior patterns of lobotomites once their brains are removed. It is why so many are littered around the facility, like skinvelopes, discarded after they are peeled open and the contents extracted.
Exactly what kind of recursive behavior patterns are you talking about?
It varies according to the number and density of lobotomites that have infected an area. In 43% of observed cases, two lobotomites left alone will fight for dominance or inject bodily fluids into each other's orifices. Unsanitary. I have tried to observe more cases, but subjects seem unwilling to release bodily fluids in my presence.
Ah, that's disgusting. I think I just learned more about lobotomites than I ever wanted to know. Before we go back to Higgs Village, we were told to check in with Dr. O. He may know more about what happened to the previous visitors.
Breaking news! Talking lobotomite arrives in think tank. Its purpose, unknown. Undefinable. Its presence here, impossible.
Unpossible? I think you meant impossible.
Oh, really? Now the lobotomite is a master of the dictionary arts. What, do you have a doctorate in verbology? No? I do. And...
Alright, look, you're Dr. O, right?
Oh? Oh, yes. I'm not going to bother correcting you. At least you got the doctor part correct. I can be grateful for that, at least.
Great, because I wanted to talk with you.
Oh, congratulations, you've succeeded. What, you come to humiliate me? Tell me how I've yet to find a means of stopping Mobius's scorpions? Or better, ask how progress is going on Securitron construction at the plant. We've had setbacks in research is all. That's all. And... Stop the presses! Just in from my eye monitors. Is that Robco tech on your arm? It is! What's your agenda bringing that in here?
Agenda? I don't have an agenda, not with Robco at least.
Oh, really? You have their tech on your arm.
What, my Pip-Boy?
How dare you bring Robco tech in here? What are you showing off? How great Robert House and his big company are?
Ooh, we can make Securitrons better than any robot those geniuses at Big Mountain can make, and they'll last 1,000 years.
You're lucky I don't have hands to tear that dip boy off your arm, or feet to stomp on its stupid metal guts. Ugh. Damn Robco.
Well, in that case, I don't think I'll worry you by telling you what House and his robots have been up to since.
Worry about House? Why would I do this? Hope he died alone in a dingy room, streaming his last remaining bodily fluids into jars. And him and his dirty girl bots. Don't even get me started on those filthy biological catcher's mitts.
Oh, so that's why those two Securitrons at the top of the Lucky 38 have women's faces. I just got that. Okay, that's gross. Well, calm down, Dr. O. I just wanted to ask some questions.
Fine. Ask.
I heard you and 8 were attacked by previous visitors.
I don't like to talk about it. 8, he can't talk about it. They fried his voice module. Something good. It wasn't all the visitors, though. Only one of them got out of control. He's the one that took control of Little Yangtze, our old human farm.
He took control of Little Yangtze? Wait, a human farm? Tell me what happened.
This human. I can't believe it. He broke out of the think tank in seconds. Then he went for Yangtze, got bomb collars, and started practicing on the subjects that were still there until he got the right frequency. We were sending robots to stop him, and he was slicing and cutting through their shells with some souped-up laser gun like they were cheese paper. When he hacked into the mainframe, A tried to stop him and got fried. Me? He rerouted my processors to take control of the train network here. If you see the tunnels with the trains plowed into them, you can thank our visitor for that. He wrecked the whole place. While we were trying to keep containment on the surface, turns out he used one train to punch out a tunnel and escape. Sealed now, but...
Oh no. A capable tech wizard experimenting with bomb collars. I think we've stumbled upon the trail of none other than Father Elijah and Christine Royce. We met them at the Sierra Madre.
A place far from here called the Big Empty. Almost didn't make it out. The collars, they're pre-war tech. The holorifle, the Saturnite alloy, the hologram technology, hibernation chambers, Securitrons, the collars. Even the suits attached to those things, stalking the villa. That's only the surface of what's there. With two others there. A woman.
He saw me, before the scars, at a place far from here. It's where he found some of the technology he uses now. It's a place called the Big Empty. The name's deceptive, if you know where to look. Almost got trapped there. While I was hunting Elijah in the Big Empty, he trapped me in one of those medical research centers buried there. It did something to my head, and I got off lucky. I saw records of other patients and what had been done to them. Some couldn't hear anything but static. Others just gibbering wrecks. Never going back.
It must be here where Father Elijah got the collar that he strapped to our neck. And this must be the place where Christine received her cranial injury, the one that makes it hard for her to read and write. But we didn't see the third person at the Sierra Madre, the courier. But both Father Elijah and Christine talked about the courier. It seems like the trail starts at Little Yangtze, the human farm. We'll have to pay it a visit soon. But Dr. O, aside from the guy who took over the trains, I think that was Father Elijah, who were the other two you mentioned?
2 other human specimens. One arrived not long after the troublemaker, and the last one, not sure when he showed up. Thought the first one was going to be lobotomized in Y-17. She got out somehow. The last subject, Klein might know more. He talked to him, and let him leave the think tank. Hope he knew what he was doing.
Well, why is that?
Klein knows things we don't. And I think he told some of those things to the last visitor. Dangerous things if they ever got out.
Oh dear. Well, I hope this guy with a name from another language is peaceful at least. Well, thanks, Dr. O, but I've got a question about you. What do you do here at Big Mountain?
All things robotical. You see a robot? I made it. See a broken robot? I made it that way. Deconstructed it down to parts. I have a gift with machines. I can render anything inoperable. Preserve them in a non-functioning state.
You break machines? That doesn't sound very impressive.
Who asked you? You just wait until a working machine threatens you, and you'll wish I was around.
And tell me about Mobius and these robo-scorpion monsters of his.
That genius, Mobius, somehow cobbled together these really impressive-looking robot scorpions with spare parts. Even painted them. Tried to see what makes them tick. Can't even examine them without them detonating all over me. Left with shrapnel and burns. Every time. Supposedly, he has even larger models, even a giant robot scorpion hidden deep within the Forbidden Zone. Yeah, right. Giant monsters, sure.
A giant robo-scorpion? God forbid.
Yeah, crazy, right? Something right out of a midnight science fiction feature. Ridiculous. What are the odds?
What can you tell me about this facility?
Big Mountain used to be a mountain. Then there was a slight mishap. Now it's a crater. The dome used to be buried, now it's exposed to the sky. Don't get me wrong. Makes the sky light up like a planetarium at night. All those spectra. So soothing.
Hey, by the way, I wonder if you have any more of those, worthless caps you gave me earlier. I just want to test out the Central Intelligence Unit barter functions upstairs.
I'd have a few left. Let me check. Yeah, there were a few under the monitors here. Here you go. Keeps the place tidy.
Well, what about you, Dr. O? Do you have another name?
Yeah, I do. It wasn't always O. I just took that one by default because sometimes it's easier to accept the mistake as long as the purpose works. I don't want to get into it. It's a sore topic with me. Makes my gel ripple.
And with that, we begin Dr. O's quest, What's in a Name? We can then pass a 65 speech check to say, Are you sure? Because I'm a good listener. I've got the ears for it.
Great. Psychology. Clearly the worst of the sciences, right after collostodiuretics. Okay, so my name is an O. Never was. It was circular, a single character, digit, but not O. But even with enhanced sensors, no one here could get it right. Always kept seeing the letter, not the number.
We can then pass a 7 intelligence check to say, well, if they kept confusing the letter with a number, then that means your name must be Dr. Zero, right?
Yes, thank you. Zero. I am Zero. How hard is that? A narrow, thin zero.
He has the same response no matter what we choose here. We can say, I don't know, O sounds more impressive, or Zero, that's not much of an improvement over O. Or, all right, so do you want me to call you Zero, or...
Zero's my name. I'm proud of it, all right? It doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Truth be told, my emotional attachment to it doesn't even register compared to just having people recognize the difference. It's just that they're both sort of round and hollow, so when they monitor scan them, they assume that, oh, it's O. Vivisect me, please.
With that, we complete what's in a name, but we can continue forward by passing a 9 intelligence check to say, if you wanted to differentiate the O and the 0, just put a slash through the 0.
What?
0. You know, just draw a slash through it. It's standard term-link code to distinguish the two. Look, are you seriously confused by this, or are you just messing with me?
Did I shoot myself with a brainial beam or something? That's brilliant. I mean, I would have come to the same conclusion. Eventually. Who am I deceiving? I never would have figured that out. I can't figure anything out. I'm useless.
And that's what makes you truly a 0.
Exactly. At least the old name was indisputable. O is more like surprise. Oh, look what I stepped in.
I have no idea how you incompetents survived this long.
We're smart. Smarter than we give ourselves credit for. I was smart enough to talk to you, give you a chance, and now look what happened.
Look, maybe we should just dispense with this 0-0 name nonsense and focus on the accomplishments. This is, after all about science.
What did accomplishments ever do for us, please?
We then have 2 choices. We can convince him to stick with O by saying, you may want to stick with O, as in the O of discovery.
Are you coming on Mentats right now? O of discovery, my reflective posterior. Well, actually, now that I think about it, that's not bad. Oh, look what I found. Oh, Dala, it's holotape and not holodisk. Maybe that's not so bad. Oh, works. Might give me some much-needed motivation.
Or we can convince him to stand firm with his real name and pass a variety of checks depending upon our skills. In my case, I had to pass a math wrath check to say, well, there's power in 0. It reduces anything multiplied against it to 0.
Well, of course it does. That's the most lethal of mathematics. That's pretty cool, actually. Destroyer of numbers. I already wreck every robot I study. Why not basic arithmetic? I like your solution. With that kind of slash in the middle, I can set myself apart. If I wanted to. And make a 0 in all the think tank. They won't be able to escape it. That diagonal slash right down the middle. Thanks. Talking to you, it really helped unclog some frustration. Talking. What a primitive form of thought kicking.
We can then continue the conversation and address him by either his new or old name, depending upon the choice we convinced him to make. If O, we can say, so O, got any amazing discoveries to share?
Oh, do I? Oh, do I? Sounds like a song lyric.
Or we can say the same thing but start by saying, so 0.
You know, hearing my name said like that, it really de-reses my screens. As for discoveries, well, of course. Look at this. Just built it. Amazing, isn't it?
In which case he hands us a bunch of scrap. Is this scrap metal supposed to be something?
It's a discovery. Kilomiles beyond your understanding that... You know what? I'm not even gonna pretend. I broke one of the monitors, and those innards start falling out everywhere. If you could just hold on to that for me until, well, forever, that would be welcome.
So we learned that Dr. O's purpose was to destroy robots. He doesn't really have any science skills, he's just good at destroying. And as I suppose we should have predicted, his house is House 0. Heading inside, we see a destroyed Securitron on the ground, right next to a bunch of scrap, tools, and a blasted-out terminal. Heading behind the stairs, we find a room with a bunch of machines, still clicking and clacking away. And beyond that is the kitchen, dimly lit with only 1 or 2 lights. Against the wall, we find the iconic portrait of House, standing next to Liberty Prime. We saw this portrait at Camp Golf, and the artist who made it clearly referenced a famous portrait of Howard Hughes standing in front of an airplane. He's even wearing the same clothing and adopting the same pose. But in Zero's house, he's thrown knives at it. Where did this hatred for Robert House come from? Heading out and going upstairs, we see another wrecked Securitron. There's a lot of scrap and tools on the table next to this Securitron, and lying on top of one of the radio consoles is the recipe Repair Skill Book. Now we can craft repair skill books from any workbench. The first room on the right must at one time have been his bedroom, but it's been severely trashed. The wallpaper is peeling, his mattress and the bed are leaning up on their ends. On the ground we find a footlocker, and that's about it. Heading over to the next room, this must have been the bathroom. We find a sink, a toilet, an upturned bathtub, and some sort of reactor in here with a chalkboard. And then heading out, we can explore the final room. In here we find a footlocker. There's a bunch of books all over the floor. And lying on top of a terminal, we find audio sample, Giant Tarantula. This is a new sound frequency that we can use with our sonic emitter. Now, before we can change sound frequencies, we need to gain access to the jukebox. We haven't found his holotape yet, but once we do, we can swap out the Revelation sound wave and instead install the Tarantula one. When done, we see that the dial on the gun is now purple instead of blue, and instead of the 10-second paralyzation effect, it has an incendiary effect, doing 2 fire damage over a period of 5 seconds. It also has almost twice the damage of the Revelation version, dealing 60 damage, bringing the DPS up to 62.1. Sadly, this is not the frequency that tears down force fields, which is what we need to complete the primary quest of this DLC. We'll be sure to find it later. Back at the think tank, we can chat with Dr. 8 to see if he can tell us any more about the visitors that damaged him. What was that? Your voice module was damaged, I heard. In an attack? We then go through many dialogue trees without really learning much. We have such a hard time understanding Dr. 8 that with every question we ask him, we get the same response. Static. Until at last, after saying, "You sound agitated," or "You're percolating," or something, we find an option to pass either a 75 science check or a perception check to say, wait, after listening a bit, that's Robco Termalink protocol you're broadcasting, right? And with that, we get the quest on the same wavelength. He asked us how we could have possibly known that, and we can say, well, I'm just full of surprises. I've hacked enough Robco terminals to know. Nice pun on the header file reference. Yeah, that Robco code's got some problems. I'm not arguing that. Huh. I just realized that I'm understanding you. You know what, Dr. 8, I agree. If someone would just take the time to listen, they would realize that you're more than just sound effects in a tank. No, I understand why you haven't learned to communicate in another way. It's hard to learn new languages. But because you were hacked, I guess this means that you're broadcasting this Robco Termalink pattern because you're forced to, not by choice. Is that right? So if that's Robco Termalink protocol, doesn't that mean it can be hacked? We now have 2 choices. The first is to hack Dr. 8. We can say, it'll only take a second to violate your rights and make your voice mine. Alright, now that we're in, let's see what you have here. I'll take these energy cells. And some microfusion cells. Now I'm going to unlock your upstairs room. I want what's in there. And lastly, I'm going to program you to blindly agree with me if I ever need you to. Alright, I realize it won't work on attack protocols. If I shoot at you, you will shoot back. But at least I'll still have you on my side during a debate. Well, I'm sorry, Dr. 8. You don't really have a choice. And thanks for the gear. Choosing this option, we lose karma. Alternatively, we can also complete the quest on the same wavelength by saying, if that's Termalink code, don't worry, Dr. 8. I'm not going to take advantage of your exposed code. in which case we gain karma. All right, Dr. 8, quit your grinning. Look, don't make me regret this. So one more thing. When I first arrived, didn't you, sonjaculate into the sonic emitter? Now, we can either end this portion of the conversation quickly because we're embarrassed by saying, the less said about it, the better, let's move on and forget about it. Or we can suggest that Dr. 8 be a little bit more discreet next time and say, look, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, it's just that it's best to keep that stuff private, you know? Or we can jump in with both feet and give Dr. 8 some advice on how to get the best performance out of his toys. If we play a mail courier, we have the option to say, well, the way I deal with it is usually I can find some cram lying around, put some duct tape around the lid, and bingo, bango, bongo, you're good to go. In which case we get 2 rolls of duct tape, 2 pieces of cram, and a copy of La Fantoma. You know, the magazine that improves your sneak? So you can accomplish things without being observed? Yeah. Or if we play a female courier, we can say, well, I usually just take a fusion cell and oscillate the charge. It vibrates for an hour. After giving him that tip, Dr. 8 gives us with 10 microfusion cells and a copy of Tales of Chivalry. You know, the magazine that increases our performance with, melee weapons. Ow. Well, now that we know each other better, can you tell me more about the sonic emitter? Well, yeah, I understood that part already. Higgs Village, huh? Yeah, can you mark that on my Pip-Boy? So your house is there. Wait, you want me to rob it? Oh, so there's another emitter code in your house in Higgs Village. How many do you want me to get? 1, 2... Okay, so there's 2 codes. One for the jukebox personality, and one for the opera frequency for the sonic emitter. Awesome, thanks. I'll keep an eye out. With that, we complete yet another incredibly awkward conversation, and we can head on over to Higgs Village to explore Dr. 8's house. It, of course, is House 108. We see that even before Dr. 8 became a robot, he's a bit of an eccentric. There are 8 clocks on the wall, as well as 8 paintings on the wall. Heading to the room behind the stairs, we find the kitchen. There's a ham radio on the table. He does like his sound appliances. And on the countertop, we see 8 mugs lined up with 8 spoons. That's not creepy. Oh, and look at this. 8 place settings set out. Although one plate is missing. I wonder where that went. Heading out and going up the stairs, we see 2 rooms. The leftmost room has a whole bunch of destroyed sonic devices, ham radios, speakers, a few containers to loot, and on the table, a copy of Sync Project Jukebox. At last, this gives us the artificial intelligence personality for the jukebox. Now we can change the sonic frequency of our sonic emitter. In his private bedroom, we find a whole bunch of more destroyed sonic devices. There's a locked suitcase under his bed with some pre-war money, and on his bedside table is the audio sample, Opera Singer. If we change the sonic emitter's frequency to Opera Singer, instead of the paralyze effect from Revelation or the incendiary effect from Tarantula, we get a dismember effect, which will cripple an enemy's limbs on a successful critical attack. This version of the sonic emitter does 55 damage, dealing 56.9 DPS, and it has a red dial. The final doctor we need to interview is Dr. Boris.
The lobotomite animal before me. What other terrifying terrors will plague us in our quest for knowledge? Communists? Communist animals, perhaps? Be warned. Attempt to propaganda me. I will shriek as a frightened babe, calling loyal cyber dogs to my aid. Do you comprehend, commie animal?
And after talking with him, we complete the quest, picking your brains. But wait a minute, animal? Did you just call me an animal?
Yes, animal. Hormones, pores, glands, all wrapped up in skin. Who knows what terrifying secrets lie beneath your epidermis? Scalpels shall tell us your secrets, even if we must cut deep for such knowledge. I was head of my biology class at American High, you know.
Wow. Do you always get this dramatic?
Drama? There is no drama in science. As I learned in high school, science is an intellectual pursuit devoid of bestial emotions. Unless, of course, you are a communist. Like Betsy Bright, who sat next to me in math, and her smoking Confederate Richie Marcus. As I learned in my high school, American High, AHS, drama is for movies, things of fiction. Here in the think tank, the only star is science.
Calm down, Dr. Boris. I just had some questions.
Just as I feared. Questions, quizzes, just as there were in American high school. And if there are no answers, how will the think tank graduate?
Who are you, and what do you do here?
Before you is the brain of Dr. Boros, head of animalogy, beastology, and DNA scrambling technology here at Big Mountain. I lay the bones and hearts of animals bare beneath my searing gaze, especially the dogs. I did so love dogs once. Especially Gabe, that rascal. But there are many animals to shape. Industrious cazadors, the happy-go-lucky night stalkers. They are my living, breathing DNA test tubes.
With that, we start the quest, A Brain's Best Friend. Whoa, wait a minute. You're the guy who created the Cazadors?
Indeed. Docile, curious, safe, sterile. They are contained here at Big Mountain to preserve DNA and for observation.
Contained in Big Mountain? No. Those things are all over the Mojave.
No, such creatures are found only here, for research purposes. They would no more be capable of escape than breeding.
Hate to break it to you, bud, but they're not sterile. They breed all right.
I cannot expect a lobotomite to understand the careful surgical castrating procedures used in their creation. Perhaps a demonstration of my castrating power would settle your doubts.
You want to sterilize me? Yeah, no thanks, that's okay.
Oh, that's too bad. Perhaps we can perform a sterility castration some other time then.
Actually, go ahead. If you try to sterilize me, you might make me more fertile or even impregnate me.
Impregnate you? What? Do you want to make me vomit inside my tank? The mere notion makes the edges of my biomed gel crystallize into asymmetrical patterns.
Look, what makes you think that the Cazadors haven't escaped?
Because Big Mountain safety measures are far more sophisticated than their primitive animal instincts. We are their lords and masters.
God, Guy, you don't even seem to have a grasp on your own research.
Nonsense! That is what you speak. Nonsense from beyond. I was at the top of my high school class in American high school. I knew facts. I knew figures. I knew data. We would know if our research was flawed. It is not. We never contradict ourselves, so do not even try.
All right, then, when did you create the Cazadors?
In 2000, carry the 3, then count backwards from the Great Static, or beyond. There were the tarantula debates, and something about hawks, which made it around 2003, May, Tuesday. It was definitely Tuesday.
And you also created the Night Stalkers? Why exactly did you create the Night Stalkers?
To preserve Coyote. No, wait. The snake DNA was important because the snakes with the rattles were dying out and... Or maybe it was a vet from Callus in X8. He had some Mount Lion, Eagle, Condor idea. Bet you can't breed this, he said. Showed him. Then it spliced itself into a coyote, a snake thing, which was eventually successful. Kept that DNA where it belonged. Spliced. Why are we even debating this? What you ask is of no importance. Mobius besieges us. There are more important things to worry about than data and facts.
Alright, well, can you at least tell me more about Mobius and the Forbidden Zone?
The malignant tumor that is Mobius plagues us all. His hunger for power, insatiable. From his lair in the Forbidden Zone, his terrifying robo-scorpion army clicks and whirs across the crater a big mountain, ever seeking, ever stinging. He must be stopped, or all of Big Mountain shall be destroyed.
I was told you could tell me more about the radar fence surrounding the crater.
The radar fence protects us all. If evidence is correct, the one who built it is me. It keeps anything with a disembodied brain inside, like us, and anything without a brain also inside. It is the ultimate defense against communist aggression. There'll be no infectious ideas on my watch.
Wait a minute. That means you're trapped here too, right?
Trapped? Nonsense! We are secure here from evil philosophies.
Well, my plan is to get my brain back and leave, fence or no.
What? Why would you do either of those things? That is madness. There is nothing outside Big Mountain. We're pretty sure. We would know.
That fence doesn't make much sense to me.
It makes perfect sense. Who are you to question the mighty radar fence? Ever since my anxiety-filled days of powerlessness and being bullied in American high school, I have dreamed of such security as the fence. That and giant cybernetic dogs that would ruthlessly patrol and kill anyone who wasn't my friend, like Richie Marcus and Betsy Bright. Who's laughing now, Betsy? I hope you and Richie are happy smoking in your radioactive coffins. I'm glad you never came to my birthday party.
Why don't you want to leave? There's a whole world beyond this place.
No! Beyond is death, despite mounting evidence to the contrary. No matter where these strange humans wander in from with their ideas and new brains, there is nothing beyond Big Mountain.
Right. Doesn't the fact that other people from somewhere else have come here prove that you're wrong? Aren't they evidence to the contrary?
Enough! Stop filling my precious brain cell units with irrelevant data. You sound like the other visitors, making wild claims of a world beyond, where there is a war beyond war. It is unproven and unthinkable. Bother the other doctors with your crackpot theories. I have no time. None of us do.
Alright, changing topics. Why does Dr. Klein want these particular technologies?
There is logic and purpose in it. If these technologies are needed to pierce the Forbidden Zone, so be it. Science is powerful, and in the right hands, our hands, if we had hands, we would be nigh unstoppable.
Can you tell me anything about the the Big Mountain?
It is our home, threatened by the horrors of Mobius. All we wish to do is continue our research, layer upon layer, above and beneath the floor of the crater, until we have our answers. But no, Mobius will not let us rest, scaring us with his scary robots with their laser tails and blowing up all the time.
I saw the expanse from the balcony. Why have you leveled this place? You've made a mess of the landscape.
It was not our first choice of testing grounds, but we no longer have the luxuries of our test cities. Then we lost the mountain. After the explosion, we couldn't find it anymore. So the crater became our testing grounds for science.
Test cities? Have you tested on cities before?
Yes. In the past, individuals would come to us, pay for technology, and if their town, community, or city was just right, we could use that city as a controlled experiment. Vault-Tec was much better at it, of course. We had to make do. Get permission. Sometimes. If only we could have used commie cities. But capturing whole cities was hard, so we captured enough commies to make cities of our own. So we had a group of Chinese prisoners to experiment on. Those were the days. But the true test was science on unsuspecting Americans. Whether it was holograms, new autodocs, toxins, vending machines, we wound them up, let them go into tiny, isolated towns. Then we observed.
Oh my gosh. They rounded up Chinese Americans, brought them to the Big Empty, and tested on them? That's horrifying. Back at Higgs Village, we can head on over to house number 103, which is Dr. Boris's house. But if we go behind it to look for any evidence of Gabe, remember Dr. Boris told us he once had a dog named Gabe, we get attacked by Stripe. Stripe is a teeny tiny Deathclaw, and he's exceptionally powerful. He could one-shot me. But after battling this guy a number of times, I discovered that as we get close to the fountain in the center of Higgs Village, Stripe will turn around and walk away. The reason is because Stripe is only here if we have the Wild Wasteland trait. Stripe is a reference to the movie Gremlins. In the movie Gremlins, the leader of the Gremlins is a villain named Stripe. In the movie, Stripe dies after being exposed to sunlight while standing near a fountain. His body falls into the fountain, and I believe this explains why the Deathclaw Stripe is scared of the fountain in Higgs Village. We can use this to our advantage. I was finally able to kill him by landing a few shots on him, running to the fountain, watching him run away, and then shooting at him while he retreated. In this way, after several minutes, I finally killed Stripe. However, when I went to look for his corpse, it was gone. It vanished into thin air. Now, it's likely Stripe is not canon. He is, after all, part of the Wild Wasteland trait, and is more of an elaborate Easter egg. But heading behind Dr. Boris's house, we see a chicken leg. In the movie Gremlins, Stripe loved to eat chicken, but since this is a Deathclaw known for eating humans, instead of a chicken leg, he has a, quote, chicken leg. Above the doghouse, we see the word Stripe, but on the ground we see letters that spell out the word Gabe. This was clearly Gabe's doghouse before Stripe moved in and knocked down his litters. But on the ground, right outside the doghouse, we find Gabe's bowl. We need this as part of Dr. Boris's personal quest. But before we go back to the think tank to give it to him, we can finish exploring his house. Upon heading inside, we see a number of bird cages. One sits on a dining room table. There are a couple more on the floor, right next to a cabinet. Heading through the doorway behind the stairs, we see another sitting on top of some boxes. And here we find a door to a basement, but it's locked with a very hard lock. We need a skill of 100 to open this door, but usually when we find doors this difficult to unlock, they'll leave a key somewhere for us. So let's finish exploring first. We don't find much in the kitchen, a little bit of food, and another hanging bird cage. So heading out and going upstairs, we find a little seating area with 2 couches and a footlocker, and next to this is the primary bedroom. Disturbingly, on the floor beneath the bed are a bunch of children's drawings, presumably made with crayon. We see a picture of some sort of monster with a knife stabbed into the head. On the picture, we see the word dad scrawled in black crayon. There are lots of children's drawings around here. An airplane, a little boy maybe. I'm thinking that Dr. Boris may have some serious issues with his childhood, especially after hearing all of that talk about his high school days. On the desk, we see another bird cage, and in the bird cage, on the bird perch, we find a key to Boris's basement. We also find a shelf on this desk, and on the shelf, a copy of Recipes Medicine Skill Book. Now we can craft medicine skill books at any workbench. But now with the key in hand, we can head down the stairs and open up the door to the basement. This leads us to a basement that looks really familiar. I believe we found Junder's Plunkett in such a place in Fallout 3. But in this basement, we don't find anyone alive. We see a lot of cages, many with holes in them, some of them covered in blood. There's a workbench to the left, a rather large cage with boxes and scrap stacked on top, another stack of even more cages right behind a couple of tables covered in surgical equipment, tubing, scalpels, and dog hide. In the back of the room, we see a teddy bear inside of one of the cages, stabbed with a bunch of knives. In the back of this basement is a shelving unit. We find a ripper here and a bunch of other containers, and that's about it. This, of course, makes sense if Dr. Boris was telling the truth. He says he's the guy responsible for creating the Cazador and the Night Stalkers. For a guy dealing in animal breeding and surgery and splicing, I suppose we can only expect to find a bunch of bloody cages in his basement. But this is a reminder that no matter how silly we think these think tank scientists are, at the end of the day, they are very dangerous. It's up to us to do something about it. With Gabe's dog bowl in hand, we can go back to the think tank and talk with Dr. Boris. Is this Gabe's bowl?
What? Why, yes, it is. I used to leave it outside his doghouse, chock full of chems, before the cybernetic modifications, of course. And no matter how chemmed the food, he would always eat it, and his tail would wag, even while I'm having the most perplexing feeling squiggling through my biogel. I can't quite pin it down.
We can pass a 45 speech check to say, sounds like Gabe really loved you.
Why, yes, Gabe. No matter how awful my day had been, he was always waiting there. How odd. My gel is decoagulating. And when I would talk to him about Betsy, and how Marcus would beat on me and call me Smarty's sissy pants, he'd just sit there, head on my knee, and... If you don't mind, I'll take that bowl. Just need to remove it. Put it away, somewhere out of radar range. For some reason, its similarity to the crater shape of Big Mountain is starting to fill up all available cognitive spaces. That, combined with my own overwhelming feeling of having done something terrible, the two were hitting me with unexpected force.
With that, we complete the quest, A Brain's Best Friend. We can finish our conversation by responding in 3 ways. We can try to build Boris up by saying, look, this is nothing to be ashamed of. Gabe was your dog. He knew his place as a specimen.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I need a moment to collect myself, sort it out, reorient my sense of self. But you're correct, of course. Gabe knew his place. Whether in the doghouse or in the lab, he was obedient. And what's a little loss when so much is to be gained? Science. Yes, science is our goal. Not emotional attachments. No.
Or we can be hard on him and say, I hope you think about what you've done. It sounds to me like you hurt someone who loved you very much.
I can't seem to not think about it. How odd.
It sounds like you hurt someone who loved you very much.
As odd as it is, I believe that is the conclusion. And I wonder why it didn't hit me before, until I saw that memory in your hands. This sensation is unpleasant. I don't care for it. I don't care for this place either. And I feel as if we've forgotten something. Still, it is no matter. Crush the feeling down. Crush it down. Push it into the loop. Yes. Forgotten. Almost. Yes. I do not need to remember anymore. Not today.
Now we will discover later that Gabe is still alive. We will encounter him when we explore the X8 facility in tomorrow's episode. So we just interviewed 5 scientists, but there were 6 houses inside Higgs Village. This must mean that the final house belongs to Dr. Mobius. Just outside his house, there is a tiny little playground where we find a couple of Nuka-Colas. Outside his front door, lying on some hexagonal flagstones, is a skeleton with a camera. I'm guessing some sort of reporter? Not sure why he would be at the door of Dr. Mobius. Heading inside House 102, we find it dark and ruined. The windows are boarded up and the paper is peeling from the walls. There's a flickering Nuka-Cola sign on the ground and a couple of large monitors on the wall. Heading behind the stairs, we can loot a few containers before going into a kitchen. Looks like someone left in a hurry. We find a cup of spilled coffee on the ground next to a coffee pot and a tipped over coffee maker. There's not much else here, except as we're about to leave, we spot on the ground next to a bucket an ice cold Nuka-Cola. How a Nuka-Cola could have remained ice cold sitting outside for all these years remains unexplained. But heading out and going up the stairs, we see a bit of a computer room. Power cords line the ground and we see a number of containers. Some are tipped over. We find 2 mentats on the ground near the table, but that's it. So heading out and into the bedroom, we find 2 beds, strangely enough, and a copy of Recipes Science Skill Book on a console to the right of the door. Now we can craft science skill books from any workshop. Dr. Mobius must have been quite a fan of Nuka-Cola. There's a Nuka-Cola lamp on a nightstand next to his bed, as well as another Mentats and more Mentats on his bed. And on the ground in the corner, we find quite a lot of Mentats. Dr. Mobius sure had a Mentats addiction. There are even Mentats on the second bed. Though I still can't explain why Dr. Mobius needed 2 beds. Perhaps these at one time were pushed together, making one large bed. And with that, we explore every home inside Higgs Village. There's a bit more to explore here. We find a lot of skeletons behind each of these homes. And since this was pretty much the private quarters of the executive scientists here at Big Mountain, I'm having a hard time explaining them. Were they janitors? Experiment subjects? Are these the corpses of other scientists? I'm not sure. But there is one final secret in Higgs Village. We find 2 elevated platforms against the wall. One of them is connected to the door we used to enter, and the other is just a free-floating platform. Using either one, we can leap atop the houses. We can then leap from roof to roof until we explore them all. On one roof, we find a skeleton splayed out next to a garden chair on the roof and 2 containers, one of which is locked with an average lock. Here we find a lot of ammunition. The next one is a bit trickier. Going to the other platform, we can leap upon a house where we find a duffel bag next to a tree where we find some chems inside. We have so much left to do. We need to find a trail of the courier, the man with a name in a strange language. And we need to track down the trails of Father Elijah and Christine, if that is, we're correct. And the visitors that we learned about really are our old friends from the Sierra Madre. We still have to install all of the appliance personalities in the sink and collect all 3 pieces of technology. If you want to make sure that you don't miss an episode, be sure that you subscribe and click that bell notification button. I've got a new shirt in the shop, folks. Awe, true to Kaiser. That's right, Legion fans, I wouldn't forget about you. On the front, we've got the Legion Bull with the words Awe, true to Kaiser, and on the back, we have an iconic Legion helmet with the words Retribution. If you would like to sport your Legion pride, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with episode 4.